Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tat Padam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidyat Ravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. How are you?
How are you?
This is good. Me too. So where are we in our text?
Page 108, second verse.
Is that too breezy for you?
No. Arjanopi Chanchalam hi manaha Krishna Pramathi Balavat Tridham Tasyaham Vigraham Manye Vayuriva Sudushkaram. And Arjuna also said in the matter of Manunasha thus: Verily, the mind, O Krishna, is restless, turbulent, strong, and unyielding. I regard it as quite hard to achieve its control as that of the wind.
Yes. One of my favorite verses in Gita. And of course, Krishna's answer, we'll find out if Vidyaranya says it. Krishna says, what you said is true. However, it can be done through practice. Can be done. So we've been dealing with this subject of Vasanakshaya, the ending of all the vasanas. In meditation, they arise out of the unconscious. We become aware of them. We let go of these attachments and identifications. And manonasha, the destruction of the mind. And just to review a little bit, I'm chilly. Would you flip the switch, please? So, manonasha can be looked at from two viewpoints. When the mind has been brought to a thunderous stop, with the attentive faculty turned within, we notice the no-thingness of the self. But I think even if that's achievable, it's only temporary. It's a mind state. I prefer to use the paradigm that's used in Yoga Vasishtha, where Vasishtha reduces the mind that's problematic to only 3 ideas. Let me see if I can demonstrate. Can you see that this is a table?
Yes.
Is that problematic?
No, doesn't
No.
bother me.
Is it causing you to suffer?
No.
No. So the awareness of objects, think the thought Mary had a little lamb. Is that problematic?
No.
What about the thought, I'm a miserable person. My husband won't do what he's supposed to do. They're mad at me. Are those thoughts problematic? So, what is the essence of the problematic mind? Yoga Vasishtha reduces it to only 3 ideas. Jiva Bhavana, I think I'm a person. I forget I'm that grounded being. Avarada Shakti. Vikshepa Shakti, I superimpose, I'm the body, or the body plus the personality. And simultaneous with that arises a goal, some form of I'll be happy when, it'll be better if. And it only takes 2 forms. I either need to change the world, people, places, things, and conditions, or I need to fix me. I'm not good enough, I'm not tall enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not spiritual enough. And the 3rd element, kartavya, struggle. And that's what's painful. Those are the 3 ideas. Now, what Yoga Vasishtha says, you can work on any one of those 3. Just like when you make a little card castle, you lean all 3 cards up against each other. Remove one, the other 2 fall. You can work on all 3 of them. You can work on 2 of them. But if you remove any one of those, if I remove this illusory idea of who I am, the other 2 will fall. If I remove the idea that the world is other than Brahman, that the names and forms are other than mithya, illusion, the other 2 fall. If I take the path of complete surrender and let go of all struggle, radical, perpetual surrender and acceptance, the other 2 fall. So, in the end, when we see the fundamental unreality of those 3 ideas, then what we begin to see is the unreality of the mind itself. And I like to take on the mantra, I cannot think a real thought, including the thought I just thought it. No personal sense of self is real. Drop it. My mind isn't real. Listen carefully. Nobody else's is either. The mind itself quits believing itself. I think this is a much more useful understanding of Manonasha. So let's see what Vidyaranya says in the next verse.
Tasmadidan nintananam vidvat sanyasinam jnanasyanu vrittimatram vasana kshaya manonashau tu prayatna sampadya viti sthitam. So it is held that For the Vidvat sannyasins of these days, only the knowledge continues, but the Vasana Kshaya and Manonasha are to be accomplished through effort.
I'm not sure what he's driving at here. I think he thinks in prior times where people were more disciplined. Remember, he talked about the need to do ritual for a long period of time in preparation. I think he's thinking in these modern times, the 14th century. But I think practically speaking for you and me, long and continuous meditation Swamiji used to address this. The people who will read scripture, they'll go to the Chinmaya mission, one morning a week, and it's really about dressing their kids up in saris and kurtas, learning a language, learning music, maybe hearing pravachana on Gita or Upanishad. But when they go home, just ordinary life. They may do a little puja, but that's it. This doesn't work. We have to sit in meditation. This is what creates the field for Vasana Kshaya. This is the value going on a long retreat. I don't provide that structure anymore. But a lot of my students go take these Goenka Vipassana retreats. They're marvelous. Doesn't matter the form. You go up to Spirit Rock. Ideally, you do it at home. Set aside the time. Oh, Jim, I'm able to do 5 minutes of meditation. Won't do you much good. It's better than nothing. Do some prayers. My experience is that for most people, it takes 20 minutes for the mind to just start settling down. So we need regularly to meditate 30, 40 minutes, maybe an hour. Now, once you're facile at meditation, you can just slip into it. And Swamiji always used to say depth of meditation is more important to length. But that's for more advanced people. Why? Because while you sit and do nothing, we have the unloading of the unconscious. That's the Vasana Kshaya that Vidyaranya is talking about. And frequently, we have to understand it's not about superimposing a salve of peace on my ulcerated mind. It's exactly the opposite. It's like lancing a boil, and all the pus has to come out. So what we will find sometimes in meditation, it's not comfortable at all. And low-level agitations arise. Fear arises, anger arises, busyness arises, sleep arises, boredom arises, restlessness arises, lust arises. of value to pay attention to what are the thoughts that arise on a relatively repeated and continuous basis. There's an indication of what our attachments are. And we just let the unconscious unload. Manonasha. This is intense vairagya. Dealing with these three ideas. No personal sense of self is real. Let go of the illusory goals, thinking that, oh, that's what's going to make me happy. And be here now. Come into the present. Surrender to the intense vividness. Then do as you will. Next verse.
Nanu keyam vasana yasyah kshayaya prayati tattavyamiti chet tatsvarupamaha vasishtaha. Dridha bhavanaya tyakta purva para vicharanam yada danam padarthasya vasana sa prakirtita bhavitam tivra samvegadatmana yattadeva saha bhavatyashu mahabaho vigateta rasan smritihi tad tadrupo hi purusho vasana vivashikritah sampashyati yadevaitat satvasthviti vimuhyati vasana vega vaivashyat sarupam prajahati tat bhrantam pashyati durdrishtihi sarvam madavashadiva. But what is this latent impression, vasana, for the eradication of which efforts are to be made? The nature of vasana is described by Vasishtha thus. The perceiving of things through intense thought, giving up even the consideration for their antecedents or consequence, i.e., giving up all hesitations, is described as vasana. By that very powerful imagination that he thinks himself to be, he instantly becomes that almighty armed Ram, even forgetting everything else. Such a man, thus deluded, that completely enslaved by vasana, he takes everything to be real, whatever he perceives. He, who is subdued by the influence of vasana, cannot grasp the real nature of things, and whatever he sees wrongly, even as a man does under the influence of an intoxicant.
Fabulous. So again, what's our definition of a vasana? Vasana is a subset of sanskara. Sanskara means an impression. A vasana is a kind of impression. It's a kind of impression that's associated with I-ness and minus, pleasure and suffering. It's the impression left in the mind as the result of previously performed egoistic actions. It comes into being because of after the fact rumination over an experience. Chintya. Chintya, I think, means worry in Hindi, right?
Yeah.
In Sanskrit, it has the meaning of after the fact rumination of things. So when I have an experience, if after the fact I don't let it go, well, that was so wonderful. Ooh, I want to do that again. That's so's Savasana. Or the opposite. That was horrible. I'm never going to do that again. That leaves Savasana. In Yoga Vasishta, we have that wonderful story about the king of the demons who, in the eternal war with the Devas, creates 3 super demons. They go off, and these 3 super demons have no ego. They're fighting the Devas and they're whooping them. The Devas go to Lord Vishnu, I think it is. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And Vishnu says, what you do is you fight with the demons, then feign defeat and run away. And do it over and over again. Oh, we've been defeated. Run, 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 run. They do this, and the super demons start to think, oh, look at us. We're whooping the Devas. Aren't we powerful? And as soon as they started to think about it, ego develops. And as soon as ego developed, they had Bhaya, fear. As soon as they had fear, the Devas could defeat them. So the king of the demons goes, well. So he creates 3 more super demons, Terminator 2. These also he creates without ego, but he also creates them Shrotriyam. What's Shrotriyam mean?
Well versed in the scriptures.
Yes, meaning they had the tools. When egoism seemed to arise, oh, I'm not going to believe you. Ciao, get out. Oh, in the war with the demons, they're fighting away, and the Devas try the same trick. Doesn't work. Because the super demons, knowing the scriptures, when egoism tried to arise. So I can't remember what they do next. I think they go to Lord Shiv or somebody like that who comes down and destroys the super demons, who of course are liberated. So the import of the tale is we have to develop the discipline to not engage in after the fact rumination over experiences. Now, most of us are more than willing to work at trying to renounce our sorrow. Oh, I'm so hurt. I'm so angry. I want to let it go, but I just can't. My mind keeps going back there. Who's had that experience? And we don't understand where the problem is. The problem is not on the sorrow side. It's on the positive side. That's where the Chintya took place. Rather than experiencing the world, and if it was a joyful experience, fine. Now let it go. Instead, we clutch at it. We own it. We try to possess it, and most importantly, recreate. Now, opposite idea. How do we enjoy the world without possession? So if you go up to, I was talking with a friend who drove up to, I think it's called the Lost Coast. Have you been there?
Yeah.
And there's the fabulous redwood forests. He was driving through and got out of the car and just enjoying the beautiful redwood forests. Can anybody own a redwood forest? Well, I suppose logging companies can. But as individuals, you can't strap it to the top of your car and bring it home. What do you have to do when you leave the redwood forest? You let it go. Or a sunset, or a beautiful mountain. When the sun is set, you let it go. Now you can get attached. Oh, I want to go out to Ocean Beach and watch the sunset. It's overcast. I won't be able to do it. Where? Suffering because of attachment. So, how do we keep this egoistic involvement with direct experience from sticking? We need to be Shrotriya, meaning we understand the process. Stay away from Chintya. Let go of the dead past. Stay out of the unborn future. Today. Now, worldly example. I have a friend who's been diagnosed with prostate cancer, which has metastasized. And he's been given, on the short end, 2.5 years, on the long end, maybe 7 years. What's the difference between him and you and me? Well, he's got a due date that he's clear about. You and I may not know. The mind can go into the fear and the worry about mortality. But he's got a pretty good spiritual program. So what he's endeavoring to do is live one day at a time. Today, nothing hurts. Today, how can I be useful? How can I be of service? How can I cherish the gift of the life I've been given today? It's not an unusual insight for people who have a terminal diagnosis. But the rest of us,
Would you say that talking about past positive events with somebody or reminiscing, would that be considered chintya as well? Or is it more about like the yearning and like how deep does chintya need to be to actually create a vasana?
What do you think?
Hmm. My sense is it's okay to like talk about it, but it's about the attachment piece. Like, am I wanting that same set of situations to happen again? Am I craving for it?
What if it were what I would watch for is when I'm in the shower or when I'm walking around the lake, does that past event arise?
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But everybody works this out for themselves. You can do whatever you wish.
Yeah.
But there are so many ways in which the teaching is be here now. Put your mind where your hands are working. Be present to what your direct experience is. And we grasp and develop this practice. We don't achieve it overnight. I think if you have a pet, especially a dog, one of the things that's so remarkable about a dog is how much they live in the present. They're great teachers for us.
Somebody shared a story about a dog. Their neighbor's dog was on the verge of dying. Um, and this person was just out walking her own dog. And the neighbor's dog came out, even though he was struggling and he kind of knew he was about to die. Just came out, sniffed all the humans, wanted to say hi, lay down on the grass. The other dogs came and just lay down on the grass with him, and they were just with him. And this person was just amazed by how how present the dog was and just how much he wanted to be there in life, even though he was suffering and he was about to die.
Now, opposite idea. I had a dear friend who's struggled with crystal meth addiction, and he had a relapse. And he's no kid; he's in his 50s now. And as the result of that particular relapse, he developed a heart arrhythmia. And the fear of death was so much that he couldn't get out of bed. He was so living in his future demise that he absolutely could not be present to the now. Now he's okay now. He's had an ablation, which is pretty much dealt with it. All right. Vasana Shaya. Let all the stuff come up. Be present to it. Let it go. Stay in the now. The discipline is to not let the mind indulge in its habituated return to the past, where people get stuck. Go there, go there, go there, go there, go there. They can't forgive, they can't let go. All right, next verse.
अत्र च स्वस्वदेशाचार कुलधर्म भाषा भेद भेदतद्गताप शब्द सुशब्दादिषु प्रणानिनां भिन्निवेशः सामान्यत उदाहरणम् विशेषतस्तु भेदानुक्त्वा पश्चादुदाहरामः यथोक्तां वासनामभिप्रेत्य बृहदारण्यके श्रूयते स यथा कामो भवति तत् क्रतुर्भवति यत् क्रतुर्भवति तत् कर्म करुते यत् कर्म करुते तदाभिसम्पद्यते इति. In this connection, the adherence of people to their respective countries' traditions, conventions, customs, religious belief, form of language, and correct and incorrect words in that and the like can be cited as general example of vasana. Later, we will deal with this with special reference to their variety. With this in view, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad has it thus. What he desires, he resolves. What he resolves, he works out. And what he works out, he attains.
Yes. So here, Vidyaranya is saying what determines a person's involvement with the society, meaning culture, history, the way in which we've been raised, our class in society. If we have family traditions, rituals, etc., all of that is inculcated by vasana. Some of these come from prior lives. Some of them are inculcated in this life. I was watching a video of this little tiny kid, must have been 4 or 5, just being a whiz on the piano. Just amazing. Probably brought that vasana in from a prior life. And again, vasanas are not all negative. We talk about developing spiritual sanskaras for children. I think in the West, this is rather new information. In India, it's ancient. The most important years of a person's life are the first 5, because all of those basic sanskaras are set in place. And many of them can be beneficent. Swamiji used to talk about, there was a sadhu who was a friend of the family. And Swamiji would sit on his lap and pull his beard and stuff like that. The sadhu would do chanting and stuff like that. So there were spiritual sanskaras that were set in Swamiji's mind at a very young age. He went through his rebellious period, became an atheist, journalist, a Marxist, but they returned at a later time. Now, the more personal and problematic ones come later. But the whole idea is, in the end, we have to let go of our attachment to identification with all of that stuff. Next verse.
Could you talk a little bit about the quote from the Brihadaranyaka, the what he desires, he resolves?
Oh, that's his way of talking about what I call the rule of the third eye. What you think about, what you look at, you're going to think about. What you look at repeatedly, you will think about repeatedly. Repeated thought develops into vasana, sinks into the unconscious. It's there even though we're not consciously thinking about it. That becomes the law of my life. Let me give you a modern day example of this. So in the recovery community, one of the things we talk about, this is data that comes from the mental health community. If you are the child of an alcoholic, you have a 50% chance of becoming one or marrying one. Is this statistics you've been aware of?
Yes.
Okay. Let's take the first. Maybe you have a genetic predisposition towards alcoholism. Okay. Maybe you've got trauma, you start to drink to avoid the trauma. Why in God's name would someone who comes from an alcoholic home and all that craziness marry someone like that? You're a mental health professional. Why?
Because it's familiar.
Huh?
Because it's familiar. That's
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what you see, you think about. And no one consciously goes out, meets another person, and says, gee, this is a total train wreck. I think I'll get involved with them. Nobody thinks that. What do they think? They probably don't. True story. I had a conversation with a sometime student whose mother is an addict alcoholic. And she's basically taken on the role of the codependent in the family. She thinks it's her job to manage her mother's addiction. You know, if there's an event coming up, they try to take the mother's purse away so the drugs aren't there. She's a pill addict. All sorts of ways of managing it. Big event comes up, they hire someone to manage the mother. They think they're powerful enough somehow to affect mother's addiction. So this young lady, she's Indian, met a boy, was really attracted to him, who's bipolar and has all sorts of mental issues. Talking to her, and she said, oh, he was so honest with me, and he was so willing to share his pain and stuff like that. And I shared my stuff. Now, thank God she didn't think this was the right boy for her. But why do you think she was attracted to that boy? She has the vasana of being a caretaker, a rescuer. Oh, there's a bird with a broken wing. Yay! Scoop. And we don't think, oh, I'm conditioned to want to get involved with a damaged person. There's no thought of it, but the vasana is there. Now, how would you frame that in terms of contemporary mental health?
Basically that she's only known, like, her idea of love and being cared for is through her experience, has been shaped by her experience of her mother. And so when that same pattern of like not being present or not being able to like manage their own life in a without someone's help or intervention rather comes about, it's like, oh, that's love. That's recognized as love. And
Yes. But these are the subtler forms rather than the more obvious ideas that Vidyaranya is talking about. And these were just some extreme forms of it. We all have them. We all have. And part of what happens in meditation is to make the unconscious conscious. To see what these kleshas are. I like to say 90% of healing is awareness, becoming conscious of what's going on, because the vasanas sink into the unconscious. And then we act on them, not at all aware that we're acting out a syndrome. We're not making choices. Do you understand what I'm saying by that?
mm-hmm.
Yes, no?
Yes.
By a syndrome, it's programmed, it's mechanical, it's conditioned. I'm not freely choosing it. That's how vasana operates. All right, going on.
Vasana bhedo Valmikina darshitah. Vasana dvividha prokta shabdha cha malina tatha. Malina janma hetuhu syat shuddha janma vinashini. Ajnana sughanakara khana hankara shalini. Punarjanma kari prokta malina vasana buddhe. Purva janma kuram tyaktva sthita samprishta bijavat dehartha thriyate gyata gyeya shab shuddheti chochyate. The variety of vasana is described by Valmiki thus. The vasana is of two kinds, pure and impure. The impure one brings about birth, and the pure one does away with it. The impure vasana, comprising crystallized ignorance and stubborn ego, is said to be the cause of rebirth by the learned. They say the pure vasana is that which has known what was to be known, the self, and like a baked seed, devoid of sprouting, remains only for the sake of the existing body having been freed from future birth.
So understand that that which impelled you and me into the spiritual life this lifetime was vasana. Subhaj, auspicious desire. So we have all these vasanas that continue to extrovert the mind into people, places, things, and conditions. And when I don't get what I want, I get angry and then I struggle and control over and over again. But antithetically, maybe as children in the temple, the church, the synagogue, or at home, perhaps it was a religious ritual, and our heart opened and warmed. Or we met a holy person as a child, and we could feel what in the Christian mystic tradition they call the odor of sanctity. Isn't that a wonderful term? It shocked. I was talking with a friend this morning who's in Jaipur right now. Went to visit his guru. And when he went in pranam to the teacher, the guru looked at him and just drilled into him. We get those experiences, and that leaves a vasana. We have those peak spiritual moments, and there's a piece of it that says, oh, there was something that was so clean, so clear, so blissful. How do I get that again? What was it? And in our own spiritual practice, we have moments of the non-mediated joy, the mind coming home to the self, even if it's just momentary. Then the same energy that used to drive us into the world, our desire, drives us towards the infinite. This is the deeper meaning of being a mumukshu, a seeker after liberation. The power of it is desire. It's not negative. Some people get in that Vedanta logic loop. Well, if that's a desire, I'm going to give it up. So I'm going to give up striving hard for liberation. And then all you do is rationalize your suffering. Hang on to your desire for liberation. Hang on to this subej, these auspicious desires, until they eradicate the inauspicious ones. And in the end, you let them go. Shankara uses the metaphor of the kataknut powder. So when the monsoon, the rivers are flooded and silt is suspended in it. So when the women come down to the river or the lake to get potable water, it's got silt in it. So in old-timey days, they would grind up the kataknut and make a powder, and they would put that in the big jars. Today they use alum, and the end result is it creates with the surface tension. It collects all the silt, and then it sinks to the bottom, and they're able to pour the clear, pure water out. There's dirt in the water. What do? Add more dirt. But it's special dirt. It's dirt that has the power to remove the other dirt. So this subhaj, auspicious desire, positive spiritual vasanas, is like the detergent you put into the washing machine. My clothes are dirty. I'm going to put them in the washing machine. Now what am I going to do? Add more dirt of detergent. But the detergent has the power to loosen the other dirt. In the rinse cycle called meditation. All right, one more.
Dehadinam panchakoshanam tatsakshinaschiddatmanascha bhedavara jnanam tena sushtu ghanibhut akaro yasyaha seyamajnana sughanakara yatha kshiram takramelanena घनीभवति यथा वा विलीनं घृतमत्यन्तशीतलप्रदेशे चिरमवस्थापितं सुघनी भवति तथा वासना दृष्टव्या घनीभावश्चात्र भ्रांति परंपरा ताम चासुर संपद्विवरणे भगवान नाह. Ignorance conceals the distinction between the body consisting of 5 sheets and their witness, the self, which is intelligence absolute. Ajnana sughanakara means the vasana which has become quite dense by that ignorance. Just as milk coagulates, coming in contact with curd, or the melted clarified butter becomes dense if exposed for a long time in a cold place, so does this vasana. Denseness here is to be understood as the result of successive delusions due to ignorance. The Lord has referred to this impure vasana while describing the demoniac endowments thus. And then next verse.
So the reference here, it's the divine and devilish estates in the Gita. I can't remember whether it's 16th chapter or 17th chapter. I think it's 17th chapter, where we talk about the qualities of the demoniacal mind, that which leads us further and further into misery, and conduct that is inauspicious for the society, as opposed to the divine estate, the divine qualities. So what is the cause of these asura, these devilish tendencies? The root is non-apprehension of my essential nature, non-apprehension of the fact that sarvam kalvidam brahma, all this is verily Brahma. From that ignorance arises jiva bhavana, arises the belief in the concrete separate reality of the world with inherent joy-giving and misery-producing properties. And the further I engage in the world, I'll be happy when, it'll be better if, more better, different. And we always have 2 strategies. I call it bring out the bouquet of flowers. It's always just manipulative. Be nice to me and I'll give you flowers. And if that doesn't work, I set down the flowers and get out my baseball bat. Be nice to me, and I hit you over the head with it. And if that doesn't work, then I bring out the flowers again. And then the baseball bat. That's our way of moving through the world in the state of ignorance. Everything becomes transactional. How can I get my needs met? It's all about me. What I want. Or we engage in that, the thicker the mind becomes. Until we delve deeper and deeper and deeper. Just what the Buddhists call a hungry ghost. What? It's so painful. So painful. Not understanding what is the cause of dukkha. I'm convinced suffering because I'm not getting what I want. I'm not getting my needs met. The world is doom and doom. People are assholes. And then we eventually get to a condition, I'm just miserable and unhappy, and I don't even know why. So then I'll take a pill to fix it. Such is the state of the world. All right, we have time. Let's see if the Uranya gives us at least a positive thing to end on.
Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha janana vidurasuraha na shaucham napi chacharo na satyam teshu vidyate asatyam pratishtham te jagadah puranishwaram aparaspara sambhutam kimanyat kamahetukam etam drishtimava shtabhya nashtatmano buddhyaha prabhavantyugra karmanaha kshayaya jagato ahitaha kama mashritya dushpuram dambha mana madanvitaha mohad grihitva sadgrahan pravartante shuchivritaha chintama parimeyam cha pralayantamupashritaha kamopabhoga parama etavaditi nishchita asha pasha shaterva badhaha kama krodha parayanaha ihante kama bhogartha manyayenartha sanchayan. Persons of demoniac nature do not know about the way of action or the way of renunciation. Neither purity, nor good conduct, nor truth is found in them. They say that the universe is without truth, without a moral basis, without a God, brought about by mutual union and caused by desire and nothing else. Holding fast to this view, these ruined souls of small understanding, of fierce deeds, rise up as the enemies of the world for its destruction. Filled with insatiable desires, full of hypocrisy, pride and arrogance, holding evil ideas through delusion. They work with impure resolves. Beset with immense cares ending only with death, regarding gratification of lust as the highest, and feeling sure that that is all. Bound by hundreds of ties of hope, given over to lust and anger, they strive to secure by unjust means hoards of wealth for sensual enjoyment.
And by lust here, we don't mean just eroticism. Lust here meaning a comma, craving. So this is a direct quote from Gita, is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how these ideas pervade our modern political atmosphere. There's was a conversation with J.D. Vance where he was talking about this lie that he was telling about Haitian refugees eating people's pets, and the journalist said it's false, and he says, "I know it's false, but it doesn't matter because it gets the media focused on us, and then we can talk about what we think is important." You know, the truth had no value. Or debates coming up and people not wanting to be fact checked. You know, we don't want fact checking because we want to lie. No value for the truth. And all about power, all about the satisfaction of desire. It's fascinating. It's fascinating as it becomes of value, because it's not just one or two people. There are huge populations who are overtly taking on these values. Gita says, knock yourself out. See what happens. Antithetically, these divine values may seem illogical in the beginning, but ultimately they lead an individual towards moksha. In the 18th chapter, of Gita, Krishna will say, that which is poison in the beginning, but turns to nectar. That's the path of yoga. In the beginning, shifting away from our lustful cravings, egoism is painful. There's mourning. But in the end, there's freedom, amrita. Amrita means nectar, but it also means immortality. Mrit, with is death. That which is nectar in the beginning, but poison in the end. That's the way of the demoniac. Gimme, 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 gimme. More, better, different, more, better, different. My wants, my needs. And where does that take me? Into an addictive relationship with life. Causes me great suffering. So Kathopanishad says, two paths approach a person, Shreyas and Preya. Swamiji used to say the electable and the delectable, the good and that which is merely pleasant. Now I have good news for you. Because the mind prefers the familiar. We talked about how it will frequently prefer the familiar to the good, like the child of an alcoholic parent. If we continue to choose the shreyas, the preferable, the electable, Satya Marga, path of truth, in time, the good becomes preferable and pleasurable. So we use the very laws of the mind to change the mind, move it in a different direction. There was a 19th century mystic that I was very fond of. Her name was Emma Curtis Hopkins. She had an organization in Chicago called the High Watch. She would say, look up. Behold the divinity, ever beholding you. You keep the high watch, that you will become. But if instead you look at the dust you will become. Whatever you look at, think about it. Whatever you look at repeatedly, keep on. You'll think about repeatedly. Repeated thought becomes habituated thought. Habituated thought sinks into the unconscious. I'm no longer aware of it as discursive thought. I'm unconscious of it. It becomes the law of my life. So we'll end today with Emma Curtis Hopkins. Keep the high watch. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Sri Guru Pyo Namaha.